You know, that judgment yesterday by a full bench of the Gauteng High Court dismissing ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule's application to have his suspension declared unlawful is also causing waves. That court ruled that Magashule had no legal merit to suspend ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa. But the suspended party Secretary General plans to appeal the case in the High Court.
I'm happy that I've been charged with so-called, what is this charge, oversight, because that's where a lot of things will be revealed in that case. I hope it does take place so that I'm able to show South Africans. And I want to say to South Africans, don't judge me when I have not been found guilty and you say I'm corrupt. Let me go and prove my case. And that's why I welcome the fact that I'm charged and I'll be able to speak for myself. And I'm still saying to NPA, can you please give me category B and C charges so that come 11th of August, you don't have any reason to say, we have written 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 letters. These guys are dilly-dallying. They give us documents of Zondo Commission, which we have, and all that, because the intention is to further delay the case so that we remain with the stigma of corruption. You are corrupt. You are. And of course, nobody wants to work with somebody who's corrupt. I am against corruption myself. How many people have, even the Zondo Commission, and people admit, I've received money, I've been given so many millions, I've been given this. They are not charged because selective application of the law. Can't ordinary South Africans see this? I don't want to defend myself, and that's why I want the court to actually pronounce. I will go to even the last court of the land.
Let's get the reaction of the ANC to those comments by its suspended Secretary General. Bring in the party spokesperson, Pule Mabe, who's joining us from Johannesburg, I believe. Pule, very good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. So, Ace Magashule says he will take the decision on appeal. What is the party's response?
Good day and good day to your viewers. We have noted statements by Secretary General in terms of the actions that he intends taking after the court has dismissed the application. Of course, our legal team have got a watching brief on this and would be watching the development closely. We did, as the African National Congress, welcome yesterday's ruling, which again affirmed that the ANC acted well within the parameters of its own constitution, and that when individual members join the ANC, they do so out of their own volition, and they submit and commit to the rules, the constitution, and the code of conduct of the African National Congress, which are clearly spelled out. We're also happy that the court has also confirmed and affirmed that the constitution of the African National Congress is not in conflict with the constitution of the land.
What do you say about this alleged 2009 meeting, which Ace Magashule says when he was Premier of the Free State, he was taken to, along with 7 of your other premiers, to meet members of the Gupta family, and he places Gwede Mandashe and Jesse Duarte at the scene. Did such a meeting take place, and why?
Well, I wouldn't know. I would also not know how the taking place or not taking place of such a meeting connects with matters that are now before the court.
Well, it's not so much about it connecting to matters outside the court. The issue here is that there has already been an alleged corruption link that has been drawn between members of the ANC leadership and the Gupta family. So when a suspended senior leader says that there was a meeting that he decides to flag in an interview, it raises eyebrows.
Well, I wouldn't know. I was not even in the leadership of the African National Congress at the time. I would also not understand the intention of placing such information out in the public and what the whole motive is. Safe to say that the SG is at liberty to express himself, and where he feels that he has got information which could empower the ANC one way or the other, use the rightful platforms of the African National Congress to address those.
Does
because
the
when
ANC
matters are flagged,
pardon me, does the ANC commonly...
public,
okay, let me allow you to finish your point.
Yes, because when matters are flagged out in the public in the manner that they are, sometimes without any due care and process, it is not possible for the ANC to really enter such space.
How common is it for the ANC to take its deployees in positions such as those of premiers to meet with prominent business people, Gupta's aside?
Well, I don't know. I've never served as a national official of the African National Congress. I don't know what happens at that level, including whatever decisions that could be arrived at. I only communicate what are formal and official decisions of the African National Congress.
So you're not aware of the party taking its senior deployees to meet with business people?
Well, I wouldn't have known. I know that when engagements are done with business people, we've got a platform called the Progressive Business Forum, where different businesses of all sorts subscribe. And the Treasurer General of the African National Congress would, from time to time, engage with them. You'll also know that even during our own annual January 8 that we always hosted when conditions were normal before COVID, that would also be superseded by a fundraising event. And that fundraising event, I mean, you basically raise money from business people. That fundraising event would see the African National Congress attracting numbers from corporates and those who are running all other kinds of businesses.
So a meeting with ANC premiers and senior leaders at a hotel would strike you as irregular?
Well, I don't want to go into something I'm not aware of. Let me just protect myself from entering a space of things that I'm not aware of. I was never an official. The ANC has never reflected on this in its own formal engagements. So I think I must be saved from making comments on things that I know nothing about.
Okay, we'll grant you that for now, because I want to talk about developments in KwaZulu-Natal overnight. Trucks torched by people who are said to be supporters of former President Jacob Zuma. They say they want him released from prison. You had called earlier this week after the news that he was going in to start his sentence for calm. This is not calm.
Well, of course, we are not going to tire from calling for calm. Actually, we did issue a statement about the protests in KwaZulu-Natal, once more calling for calm and urging those that are embarking in violent protests to use legitimate platforms available to them to air their views without the destruction of property and destroying the jobs that our people need so much. I mean, the working class people depend on these jobs to be able to survive under these difficult conditions. The looting of shops, destruction of public property is not in keeping with what we are supposed to be doing in a democratic state, especially on how we deal with issues. We do not deal with issues by embarking on violent protest and believing that when you do so, you are going to get the attention you need. You must be able to use legitimate platforms to express your views. We have also called on our law enforcement agencies to make sure that they attend to the situation in the most peaceful manner, because we wouldn't want to see loss of lives, but we will want to see a return to normality and calmity on that part of KwaZulu-Natal. We believe that there is a possibility to find solutions. We have also said that the leadership of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, working together with our NEC deployees, should also be seized with this matter and attend to this situation and work towards finding a solution.
Have you accepted, though, as the ANC leadership, especially at national level, that your influence and power is limited very much to the appeals for calm and expressing your wishes for peace, because some of the people who are taking part in these demonstrations don't trust some people in your leadership and will ignore any call made by people who they see as part of a different faction or against Jacob Zuma?
Well, without even going far, you would know that the ANC does not have the capacity to enforce the law. South Africa is a democratic and lawful state. It has got law enforcement agencies that have got every capacity to enforce the law. The ANC, as a responsible organization, when it sees scenes of violence, they are not of the ANC's making. In whatever community, when we see scenes of violence, we always come out to express concern because we understand our role as a leader of society. And as a self-respecting organization, we must always call for calm.
Your KZN chairperson, Sihle Zikalala, in speaking to some media yesterday, suggested that a presidential pardon would perhaps be the only way to quell some of this tension, and in a tweet that I saw suggested that it would be raised with perhaps national leaders. Has that been raised with the NEC? And what is the position,
I don't think it's even necessary for me to comment on that. What I can say to you is that the National Executive Committee is underway, and the National Executive Committee of the ANC does not deal with issues that fall outside its terrain. Matters of pardons and all of that in terms of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa are matters left to the state president. So those matters don't fall within the terrain of the African National Congress. Even in the statement that we had issued, we have said that we must make sure that there is a clear distinction, or rather that there is no political interference on the part of the judiciary. The judiciary must remain independent, and that we in the ANC uphold the supremacy of our own constitution and respect the work that the judiciary must do in that independent way. That includes all other arms of state. There is a clear distinction between the party and state. We do not influence the work that is supposed to be done by the state.
So you
say that when we go out
and agree, Pule, you accept and agree then that any call to try and have the president of the country grant a presidential pardon to end protests that have a political leaning would set the country on a dangerous course, set a dodgy precedent, as it were?
Well, I don't think that we have got locus standi on that. You see, so the African National Congress doesn't have locus standi to pronounce on matters that are clearly articulated in the Constitution and that have got to be advanced by the state. Even when issues around former President Jacob Zuma's incarceration were being discussed and all of that, we did make the same point. This is the same point that we are now articulating. That if there are matters like those which have got to be dealt with, they must be dealt with by appropriate bodies, not by ourselves. We do not have such powers.
More broadly, then, what you're saying is you don't agree with a presidential pardon being used to perhaps help someone who's in legal trouble just because there are protests?
Can't hear you.
I'm saying, so in principle, more broadly, what you're saying is you would agree then that the ANC would not take part in any attempt to seek a presidential pardon in order to end protests, whether they are pro-Jacob Zuma protests or for any other South African who is before the courts or serving time.
I don't think that it's about the ANC taking part. The ANC doesn't have such powers. It will be an overreach if the African National Congress starts doing so. You know, under which clause of our Constitution will we be acting on such? I mean, we have got the former chairperson of the ANC in the Northern Cape, Comrade John Block, as an example, who is also in incarceration. We have never attempted to overreach and do things that do not fall within our powers, including wanting to influence the judiciary or the courts out in the Northern Cape to look at John Block's matter in a different way. If we do it now, we are going to appear inconsistent and not in keeping with what has always been our approach and association with matters that are before the courts.
Pule Mabe, spokesperson for the African National Congress, thank you so much for your time.